Everyone talking about the top 15 most unique slash weird fragrances that I've ever tried. Many of these are unisex, so I think there's something kind of for anyone's taste in here, but just going to jump right in, not in any particular order. One, Zoologist Elephant. This truly is reminiscent of like an elephant in a dry, dirty, green, outdoorsy environment. Very unique and creative. It's not something that I necessarily like love the smell of in terms of a like, oh, that smells so good type of fragrance. Like it's just too earthy for my taste, but so interesting. And I enjoy smelling it even just for the interesting factor of the experience. So vividly evocative. And I do think that the right person could totally pull it off as a wearable fragrance too, especially if you like earthier fragrances with some greenness to them and kind of a naturey vibe. Next, Drink Menta by Hilde Soliani. This smells so unique and realistic. It's like silky caramel, but not in an over the top, kind of babyish, sugary type of caramel at all, with like this really cooling ice cube type of vibe, and then the sprig of very fresh and authentic mint leaf. And maybe not any one of those things on their own would be super unique, but the combination, I've never smelled anything that put them together like this. So interesting. And not something that I would personally wear. The mint is just a little bit too realistic, bitter, sharp mint leaf for me, and that's not my taste in mint. I like mint when it's like a little bit sweeter than that, but just such an intriguing and creative mix. And I think this would actually be such a good like signature scent even on the right person. Next up, Light by Neandertal. This reminds me of the smell of a playground in a big park. There's like old wood from a seesaw, metallic, rusted merry-go-round scent, a little bit of salt and spices from someone like barbecuing in the park, surrounded by leafy green trees just all kind of blowing in a cool wind. Very fascinating, definitely unique. I wish for my taste there wasn't like patchouli in it. I don't think it needed that extra earthy edge that kind of adds here, and same with the galbanum. Gets a little bit bitter green here in a way that I feel like it would have been green enough already without that. But overall I find it to be really well done, and as with kind of any of these, I would say worth sampling even just for the interesting kind of eccentricities of it. And that one has a very cool, unique look of the bottle as well. Next up, Zoologist Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is full bottle worthy for me. I just love this so much. It reminds me of the smell of like a big heap of trash on fire surrounded by a forest and some plants and florals. It's totally ferocious, and it just like really grabs me. So smoky, but also with a brightness to it and kind of like some spice, and very unique. There's nothing quite like it out there. Yeah, it just reminds me of like burning a torch on the beach, like maybe spices from something cooking nearby, and then a bunch of like random disturbing stuff maybe in the mix as well. Absolutely love it. Next up, Vicki Lin by TSVGA. This is the single most intense fiery scent I have ever tried, and that's saying a lot. One, because I've tried so many things. Two, because I love smoky scents, so I will go out of the way to try anything, especially if it's like, intensely smoky. Not so much in like a tobacco way, but like really fiery smoky. This one straight up smells like a forest on fire. And I live in California, so I know what that smells like. Unfortunately, not much more to say to it. I mean, it's not even wearable in my opinion, but I like to keep a little decant of it just because it's so like stunning and just like, oh my god, whoa, like smelling it, that it's fun to just do. But even as somebody who loves smoky notes, there's no way that I would wear that in public. Okay, this next one is literally traumatizing to me, but Secretions Magnifiques by Etat Libre. I've mentioned this so many times, but I've still not done a full review of it. So this is supposed to smell like so many unmentionable things, from blood, sweat, sperm, like so many other, like a lot. I mean, you get the picture, like plenty of other gross things with that too, but I can't remember exactly what else it's supposed to smell like. But you usually see two types of comments that people will say about this in reviews, like either, oh, it's not that bad, it just smells like musk or something like that, or my take on it of, god damn, that's disturbing. And I don't think either side is right, because things smell different to different, or maybe I should say neither side is wrong. Things smell different to different people. So I don't think the people who are saying that it doesn't smell bad to them are making it up. And I also don't think that the people like me are just more babyish or something like, oh, we're traumatized by a light musk or something. I am now after this scent, but I'll get into that in a second. And yeah, because to me, I was just thinking like, oh, that's interesting or whatever. I have never smelled anything like this. So, even thinking about it, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like shocking. And that's the problem too, I think, is that I kept smelling it over and over because it was like sending me recoiling, but it was so fascinating to get that reaction from something that I just kept wanting to smell it again. Like, wait, it can't really be as disgusting as I just remembered, right? And it would just be like, oh God. It was just like, yeah, I think there's like a vomit note in it, probably too, or just like so many gross things. But to me, it smelled very, very gross, but very disturbing in the moment. And there's an adrenaline note in it. And for something about it, I get that out of it. It's like really disturbing. But ever since I smelled that, I have developed an olfactory aversion to certain types of musk. So now even things that I were full bottle worthy to me before. So it's not even just like, oh, I think going forward, maybe this is why I don't like that. Things that I loved, now that I smelled it since my smelling it way too many times, Secretion Magnifique, smell really gross to me. It's like I could be like one of those dogs that picks up a scent from a million miles away, but about the tiniest bit of certain types of musk. It's not all types of musk. I really want to figure out what it is, but it's definitely a musk type of note that clearly there's a lot of that and that. And now there's certain other fragrances that are ruined for me. So try that at your own risk, because I have seen other people say similar things in reviews that certain other types of scents are just ruined for me because of how like extreme that was. And again, don't jump in the comments saying, oh, it doesn't smell like anything to me. Things smell differently to different people again. And that one to me, I do really regret smelling it because it sucks that it ruined fragrances that I love. And then now it just gives me that, that's really what it smells like to me when I smell this certain type of musk in certain things. Next up, Gong by January Scent Project. Such an interesting mix. It opens like a combination to me of like a sweet blueberry scented pen, like those Mr. Sketch ones popular in the 90s. Maybe they're still popular. A splash of citrus juice and then a green fresh slice of bell pepper. Very unique. As it progresses, it keeps some of that opening vibe for a while and then adds a little bit more aromatic spice. So creative, but also I do feel it's very wearable in a way that wouldn't seem like too weird to anyone passing you down the street or anything like that. So that's a nice combination. Next, another one by January Scent Project, Selperniku. I've never smelled any other fragrance that's quite like this. It's too buttery for me, not in a way of that being like a textual description or like it's creamy or something like that, but like literally like real dairy butter. I think that's a note in it. The opening to me smells like a big scoop of butter dropped in a cup of chamomile tea with a slice of apricot. Though I would say less over the top and disturbing than that sounds, because butter and tea already is just kind of like, wow. But like a more minor, like a distilled version of that. But major props for their creativity. And I think by the time it dries down, it smells way more wearable. And it still retains that like interesting and unique factor. Next up, had to get the bottle, Tom Yum by Prissana by Parfumeur Prim Lamros, my favorite. When it comes to Thai soup, I usually get Tom Kha, not Tom Yum soup. So I'm not as familiar with the smell of Tom Yum as a dish, though I've definitely had it at least a few times and I've been in enough Thai restaurants that I've smelled it plenty of times. But this to me is just delightful. It does not come across at all like a typical gourmand to me, not even in a savory way, it doesn't, which is perfect in my opinion because it has this inspiration, the uniqueness, but without straight up really smelling like a restaurant kitchen, to me at least. Bright, energetic, aromatic, lime and lemongrass type of scent. Makes me just so happy to smell. And it's, lots of fresh spice. It's made with 100% natural materials, and you can really tell by smelling it. Now, on one hand, something being all natural does not mean it's going to be safer, doesn't mean it's going to smell better. But it is nice when you can find one that is really, really good and has that burst of just natural life to it, which this does to me. So vibrant and just fresh citrus, green spice really shines through in this piercingly fresh way that I don't usually get from that many other fragrances. It is kind of like a classic eau de cologne, but just done in a very unique way. Really special scent, and I love it. Next, Fantomas by Nasomatto. This is unique even within the like weird intense fragrances category. Kind of hard to even describe because it goes in so many different directions at once. To me, it opens smelling like a school field trip to the dump. You got plastic lunchboxes, rubbery shoes, mounds of dirt, ripe fruit sitting out in the sun, sweaty skin like musk, and candy. The metallic tang from the gunpowder note further livens it. It just keeps jumping all over the place like one of the hyper kids from the school bus after the long drive. And then it dries down to more of like a musky, woodsy scent. I can't say I enjoy the smell, like it doesn't smell good to me, but I really am impressed by the creativity of it. And I think it smells a very high quality, pungency and all. Next, Bana Banana by L'Artisan Parfumeur. It really does capture that type of banana smell in a way that still feels potentially wearable. I love banana desserts, but I don't like synthetic banana flavor usually. I mean, who does? I don't think most people do. But once you get past the opening here, this does a pretty good job of bridging the gap between candy banana and like real banana without going too far in either direction. The first minute or two of the opening are a little bit too synthetic banana candy-ish to my nose, but yeah, then it becomes really smooth and creamy, almost like a Philosophico style fragrance, but centered around banana instead of fig. Not something I would wear, but super interesting, and I definitely think the right person could indeed pull it off. Next, another one by L'Artisan Parfumeur called Dzing. This smells like European royalty arriving at a county fair by horse and carriage. Very unique. Many fragrances use the kind of more sophisticated accords here, and a lot of others use the more kind of gourmandy type of accords here, but I have not smelled anything that has this exact combination of both of those before, of like, the way that certain interesting gourmand ones are done and the like very sophisticated side, without it just being like, oh, this smells like a sophisticated vanilla gourmand or something like that. It gets a little bit potpourri-ish at times, and that kind of like luxurious royalty type of fragrance is not my type of thing, but they are very popular with a lot of people in general. And if you like the idea of that, this is great, really creative one worth trying. Next up, Odeur 53 by Comme des Garcons. Before smelling this, I was definitely intimidating because so many reviews talked about, it smells like a hospital, it smells like this and that, like, wow, like what is that going to be like? And it does, it smells very antiseptic. Shortly after the opening, it reminds me of the smell of like a hot glue gun where the glue is like drying, which I actually like that, I guess, from the nostalgic being a kid doing art type of stuff. I wouldn't wear this, but I appreciate that Comme des Garcons does such weird and creative stuff. And I think this is a must try from a sampling perspective because it's just interesting and like, oh wow, they really made that. Another Comme des Garcons next. This is called Comme des Garcons, cool bottle too. This was the one released in 2011 because they have another one I think from the 90s called Comme des Garcons as well. And this has, my favorite part of it is notes of brown packing tape and glue, industrial glue. It also has some like leather, some lilac, and some other stuff like that, but I love the nostalgia hit of the packing tape and the industrial glue type of smells. Yeah, it smells like doing art projects or something, but I actually think that it smells very wearable at the same time. Very like saffron-y style kind of leather with that. And yeah, just super well blended, and I love it. Obviously, if it's full bottle, would for me. Last on the main 15 is Gorseland by Jorum Studio. Just like pretty much all Jorum Studio fragrances that I've tried, incredibly unique. I have never smelled anything quite like this. It smells like a field of plants that I've just never smelled before, which makes sense because I think the plant that it's based around I probably have not smelled. But there's this almost like pungent menthol type of herbalness underlying the fresh sweetness. And I think it's more than just, there's a cannabis note in here, but I don't think it's just that. It's just really interesting and kind of compelling and captivating. Like, what is that even? Not something I would wear, again, a theme for most of the ones on this list, but I find it very, very intriguing to smell in small doses, and I think another one that's just, definitely worth sampling if you like unique fragrances. Now, a couple bonus mentions. These aren't the official, I just did the top 15, but here's a couple ones that I wanted to include that didn't quite make that. One, Italian Leather by Memo Paris. This is really interesting, fascinating take on leather, which Memo is great at doing. They have a whole series where they do all different types of takes on leathers. This one is like a tomato-y leather. Yes, like really tomato-y. It's like someone was wearing an expensive leather jacket while eating a balsamic tomato. And the tomato leaf takes it in directions just not for my taste. I'm not huge on like tomato leaf type of notes, but I think it would be amazing fit on the right person, and it's very unlike almost anything else, even within kind of tomato leaf scents, which are already rare. Just kind of like the leathery vibe of it, very interesting. Next up, let's try to pronounce this. Fils de Dieu de agrumes. Sorry for the butchering of the pronunciation, but I will mention all of these in the description, so you don't have to rely on my pronunciation to look it up. By Etat Libre. The rice note in here is really strong in the opening, and I love how front and center that is. I really like those kind of like carby notes like rice or bread. On me, the opening and middle faces of this are straight up gourmandy in like a savory way, like ginger sticky rice type of vibe, like Thai food type of thing. Very unique and delicious smell. When I first smelled this, I was already hungry, and this literally made my stomach like audibly growl from smelling it. So it smells good, at least in a delicious sense. Whether that constitutes a wearable fragrance will differ by the person, but I would think this smelled really nice whether it was on a plate or on a person. The dry down does get more powdery floral, but it still has like a zing to it. And last of the bonus mentions, White Hinoki by Amoroud. Smells like a fancy hotel between the lobby, the spa, and the bar. There's like the upscale lobby vibe mixed with like a calming boutique spa. I can almost hear that kind of relaxing spa music playing. Then there's almost like cigar and whiskey from the bar with this tangible, tropical, humid, woodsy earthiness outside. I don't really like tobacco or boozy notes, so this isn't something I would wear, but it's so unique, very well done, and it really just transports you to another place, so evocative. Very unisex, I would say, as with kind of most on this list. Yeah, I will mention all of these in the description in case you want to look them up and check any of them out yourself. But otherwise, feel free to chime in with what you think are the most unique fragrances that you've ever tried, because if I have not tried any of them, I definitely want to check them out.